I am your favorite boomer, I hope. But of course, you've only seen me in one other video, so uh, probably a little bit too early to tell. Anyways, this is part two of my series on becoming a caregiver, and there's some realities that you're going to have to face when uh, this happens to you. And the reality is that it's not going to be fun. There's not really too many fun parts to being a caregiver for someone who has Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or dementia. Uh, and looking back, my father had Parkinson's for a number of years before he got to the point where I had to become a caregiver. My mother, she kind of went around the bend, and it was pretty obvious when all that happened. But my father, it happened pretty suddenly. He had everything from the classical Parkinson's disease is that he had essential tremor, and he had a lot of muscle weakness and wasting. In other words, he lost a lot of weight, and he had some trouble swallowing, which I think contributed to his loss of weight. He would choke quite often on food, and so we had to thicken his liquids, and then later on he couldn't swallow at all, and we had to make some decisions there. And if I have any regrets, that was where we installed the feeding tube, and it was a decision that cuts both ways. Looking on it now that it's passed, I kind of regret doing it, but at the time we thought that he needed to get nourishment, and how were we going to get nourishment to him? And it was through a feeding tube, and that became my responsibility of keeping the tube clean and keeping maintaining the drugs that we would give him. His I can't remember what it was called, Ledopa or something like that. The medicine that kind of helped slow his decline, and we had to feed him through a tube, and then he got pretty bad after that. In retrospect, now I think it extended the period of time that he was miserable. In his mind, he was functioning pretty clearly. He was pretty cognizant of everything that was going on, but he was trapped in a body that was starting to not do what it was supposed to do anymore. And later, he declined so that to the point where he was bedridden, and then it became my responsibility to not only take care of the food feeding, but also with taking care of everything else, bodily fluids. He had a catheter, and I had to clean him up and give him sponge baths and all those things that happen. And but then sometimes, and this is a bonus for the caregiver, he would have moments of clarity, and Dad would surface, and we'd have conversations, and those are real jewels that you want to hold on to because you get a chance to connect with well, I did anyway, connect with my father while everything was going on, and I could explain to him what was happening, and I could get stories. He would tell stories about things that I didn't know about, and things that, as kids, yeah, I never thought to ask questions or get stories of his childhood or his youth before I was born. So those are great perks of being the caregiver, because often when that happens, you're the only one there. And I don't envy any of you guys who are in that situation. I can tell you that it's not pleasant, but there are some rewards, and I'm sure that in the end you'll look back on it and you'll see the blessings that you received for taking care of your loved one when they're in decline.